Hey everyone. We received a question from a therapist on Instagram a couple of weeks ago now about whether or not we use a joint by joint approach or model to guide our rehab or our training, or if we think it's useful at all. And so what we wanted to do here is share just a short insight with the focus being at the stability and mobility interaction at the foot and ankle in particular. So do we always need the foot to be stable and the ankle to be mobile at the same time? Okay, because that's really what this approach sort of lays out, is that we have this distribution of stability and mobility across the body, across all the segments, and the thought is that this distribution helps the body deal with forces, both external forces and internal forces. So for us, now we just want to say that we're big fans of models that help us navigate the complexity of the human movement system, because it is very complex. It's a non-linear system, but it's also important to have models that are representative of how we move, not just move our bodies in general, but how we move our bodies within the context of a complex environment, okay, and during different tasks. So a big challenge here is firstly, the terms that are used. So using stability and mobility as terms to describe movements, because it seems like for a lot of people, they all have different definitions for stability and mobility, which obviously then makes it difficult for you or anyone to understand how the movement system is behaving when stability and mobility are used. Right. So generally, stability is often characterized as a feature. It's a feature that reduces, or seen as a feature that reduces movement options, which really isn't true, because there are certain times when stability can mean more movement options as well under certain task and environmental conditions. Okay, but for the purpose of this insight, we're going to look at stability as a feature that would represent less movement options. And then we have mobility, which is often characterized as a feature that increases movement options. Okay, but the problem here is that unless you appreciate movement, so stability and mobility in this case, this is how we're looking at movement, the distribution between stability and mobility. Unless you appreciate that within the context of the environmental and the task factors or constraints, then how do we actually know which joints should express more or less movement options? Okay, so in this insight here, let's look at the joint coupling dynamics, okay, within the foot and the ankle. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, what's a stable behavior of the foot? What facilitates, or what behavior facilitates less options at the foot? And that's a supinated foot. Okay, a supinated foot is a foot with less options, so it allows us to concentrate force in one particular direction very well, right? And that's what's outlined in their approach as well. So if the foot remains stable, then we can sort of appreciate what direction allows the ankle to move into a direction that allows it to express that mobility. So if the foot remains stable, what direction can express its mobility within, when we look at it from a joint coupling standpoint? And so supination will couple with plantar flexion, and pronation will couple with dorsiflexion, right? So a stable foot, a supinated foot, allows for a greater plantar flexion mobility. But the issue here is that we also need to appreciate what kind of task does this foot and ankle behavior allow us to express, or what kind of task does this foot and ankle behavior help us with? And the answer here is more force production behavior and overcoming external forces. Okay, because again, we get that supination, that plantar flexion, to overcome the external forces of the external environment, and that's completely fine. But those local behaviors of the foot and the ankle might not be helpful during tasks that don't require us to express higher levels of force production, during tasks that may require us to manage uncertain or unpredictable forces from the external environment, manage perturbations, manage disturbances, or distribute forces over broader surface areas. Okay, so for us, while this model can definitely be a useful starting point, and we do, like we said, we do appreciate that there's this understanding that there's a distribution of behavior across neighboring joint complexes, but again, it's probably not truly representative of how our complex movement system interacts with a complex environment during different tasks, because there's so many factors to be considered here.